And now this is a reassembly of the 2015 Chevy Cruze with the 1.4 liter engine. Reassembly of the water pump. Now we already have the water pump off, so I'm going to show you what you do after you take it out and you're going to reinstall the new part, the new water pump. There we go. Now this is the new water pump. And these are 5/16. It's good practice to put the bolts back where you got them. It's good practice, you know, so you won't lose track of where they go. Now this water pump thermostat housing neck, now which goes in here. Remember, you got to remember which. Well, it only goes on there one way. You know, it has this little area here that goes on there. But yeah, you can't get it wrong. Now this one recently had RTV sealant, so I always like to put it. It has a gasket in there, a little O-ring, which was recently done, but ended up being the water pump failing. So we'll go ahead and leave that one there since it's been replaced maybe like 3 weeks ago. So use high temp RTV red, which it's rated for a bunch of things: transmissions, valve covers, you know. But this has a 1 hour setup time, so within that 1 hour you cannot put any water in it. You don't need a whole lot, just a little bit, you know, because when you mate this part, the thermostat housing with it, it's gonna spread, it's gonna squeeze it out. A little goes a long way. Next, we'll take you back to the car and we'll install this on the car. Now you want to make sure that around the area here where the old water, where the water pump meets the engine, that it's all clean. And if you have old gasket sealant, get a nice little razor blade, just kind of scrape off the old gasket sealant, but try not to scratch or gouge the mating surface, because, well, that's never good. Now we're gonna do the reassembly. We have the new gasket that the kit came with, but I'm gonna put some RTV red on there as well to hold it on the surface of the water pump, almost like gluing it on there. Not much, just a couple dabs here and there. Or nice little film. Whatever you feel comfortable with, but You don't use a whole lot. You don't want to dab it on there too thick. Oops. Just enough to stick it on there. Perfect. Now these are 5/16 bolts. Okay, got it all figured out here. Now it's time to torque them down. Now, when I removed them originally, they weren't really on there too tight. And there's so many of them where it really doesn't take too much torque. Remember, the threads are aluminum, so inside the block, so you can damage the threads if you tighten it on too tight. So I made this little guide here. Right here, this guy, there's how many bolts? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, there's 10 bolts, so you got to tighten up. Now you have 3 different sizes. You have, well, I got them. It's a small, medium, and a large. The large has the little gap of threads where it just has it in a tip. You'll see if you're doing it. Now, I marked it here on this old water pump. The smallest ones. You got the small one here, the medium there, another small the medium bolt that goes in there. Small goes on top here. Another small there. And these two on top are the small bolts. This guy here is a large, as you can see with the L. And you got another large here. Small, medium, small, medium, small, 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 large, and large. You only have two large and two medium bolts. So all the rest are small. But you remember you have two large, which are here, and two medium, which are here, and all the rest are small. But you can always refer back to this if you need help. Yeah. And once you got them torqued down, you can start putting back all the plumbing, and then the motor mount, really, which goes back together like on part 1 of the video, which is disassembly of the motor mount and water pump, which if you follow that, I mean, it's easy to put it back on together. So they're all 15 millimeter bolts. They have to be, all these bolts have to be 12 point sockets, because if you use 8 point, it's not going to work. So yeah, I'll put back the plumbing and then the motor mount, and then filling up fluids. Okay, now that we got it together, put the water neck. Can you see that? Yeah, the which is the pipe to the heater core. Slip that back on the inlet outlet. Snap back the clip, the temperature switch. I believe that's what that is. Down here, what you can't see is I'm putting the a water pipe that goes onto the thermostat housing. You have to use a flathead down here to tighten it up. You can see it was this guy. Where is he at? Yeah, this guy goes on the bottom of the water neck thermostat housing. Just the hose slips on and then tighten it up with the hose clamp. No big deal. Really easy to get to. Now that that's all together, we can start assembly of the motor mount. Oh, no. Put the pulley back on. Gotta zoom in on that. Now you're gonna need a 15/16, what are we at? 15/16 opening wrench, which you're gonna hold it. You're gonna hold it from it spinning, and then you put on your pulley. Put your pulley on. You can start a few bolts. Hand tight. Now this is going to be a 3/8 socket, 12-point. When you want to torque it, put your wrench on there and then tighten it. Spin it around and get the last one. Now these aren't crazy tight, because when I loosened them, they weren't really tight. So yeah, there you go. And then for the belt, which that one was a little tricky. It's an 11. Where we at? Oh, it's an 11, 12-point. Do the tightening motion. And I'll show you a belt path here. Now your belt path goes around the AC, around the AC here, over the oil pump, back around the tensioner pulley, come back around to the over the alternator, over the water pump, and then back around the AC. So yeah, you tighten, take the tension out of this guy, and then you're able to route it. So yeah, now time for the motor mount. And now for the motor mount bracket, there's only really one way that I've done this, is that you have to put this lower bolt in there first, and well, you gotta have these two and slide those in first. And then right here you'll see the holes on the block where they go. You have to put the two lower bolts in first, because if you put in this top one, you can easily slide it and you won't be able to get the bottom bolts in. So you have to put those on there first with the bracket. And those are 15mm. I get the top part, the actual mount, which sits, this part goes over the stud, and it has 2 bolts here. I'll show you here. Of course, this nut goes over the stud. These 2 long bolts go on the actual body. These three that match go in here on the engine, on the motor mount bracket that attaches to the engine. That, my friend, is motor mount. One tight motor mount. Do the air duct. And lastly, reinstall this guy in the duct passage right there. Just slides in. Don't forget to reattach your sensor. Lock that guy in. Yeah, now you just add fluid and maybe bleed the air out of it. But yeah, that's replacing the water pump on the 2015 Chevy Cruze with the 1.4 liter engine, I believe. Let me see. Yeah, 1.4 liter. So nothing to it is to do it.